hypnotized by the sounds I'm breathing in. Hold tight, hold tight. Can't make
Here with your family and your business, but they don't know actually you are very committed to financial freedom. So can you talk a little bit about this topic and like how we can use like World Liberty Financial to really realize its value?
You know, in 2019 and 2020, 2021, I started getting letters from some of the biggest banks in the world. These were banks that, you know, we had done business with as a family for, you know, in some cases 20, 30, 40 years. You know, your accounts have been canceled, right? And this is in the United States of America. This is, you know, the superpower of the world and, you know, the most advanced economy of the world. And I'm seeing this there saying, you know, this isn't even possible, right? It was kind of that woke cancel culture movement that spread across, you know, so much of the world, other than frankly the Middle East. They've done a great job keeping that nonsense out of here. I really applaud you for the Middle East and really the UAE has done an unbelievable job keeping that out there. But you know, you realize how susceptible people are really to kind of, you know, one person sitting in these golden towers overlooking these big cities. You know, if they don't like you, they can destroy your life, they can destroy your business, they can destroy your livelihood. They certainly tried to do that with the Trump organization. The good news about us is we had enough zeros behind kind of on our balance sheet, you know, and we had a loud enough voice that they couldn't kind of get away with it. But then you start going around to industrial countries all over the world, developing countries all over the world, and you realize that so many people on this earth have zero financial freedom, right? They don't have the balance sheet, they don't have the zeros, they don't have any leverage whatsoever. You know, if I'm trying to get a loan for a building, I can go out and I can call the CEO of one of these banks and say, listen, you're gonna drop the interest rate by 150, you know, basis points. We're a big account, we'll give you deposits, we'll do this, right? We can negotiate great terms. You know, try and be an individual in Zimbabwe where you have 1,000% inflation, you know, every single year. Try and negotiate terms with a lender, right? They can't participate in the modern financial system. It's not even accessible to them. They take so many of those countries that don't have technology, that don't have the benefit of these big, beautiful screens and laptops and everything else. Their only connectivity to the world really to the digital world becomes the one item that virtually everybody has gotten in their pocket now, whether they buy it outright or they finance it through these elaborate programs, but that's ultimately your cell phone. And so you can find your phone, technology that you have in your pocket, with giving people an even playing field around the world to be able to buy, to be able to invest, to be able to put their money into USD1 backed by one-to-one US treasuries, you know, versus trying to put their money into some currency in Zimbabwe or some currency in, you know, some nation that's either plagued by wars or, you know, or famine or corruption or, you know, you name it. Right, that gives people financial freedom, the likes of what they've never seen before. I don't think you've had this kind of competitive advantage for everybody in the world, really maybe since the advent of the internet, which for the first time kind of made knowledge as attainable to somebody who's poor as to somebody who's uber wealthy, right? Before they had to rely on libraries going into that, which people didn't otherwise have. All of a sudden the internet kind of brought an even playing field to the entire globe. What crypto really does is bring an even playing field to the globe. If you don't have access to Jamie Dimon, if you don't have access to the biggest financial institutions, you know, congratulations, you have your phone. And you can invest in Justin. And that might be investing in Justin for $10 or $100 or $1,000 or $1 million or $100 million. You can buy USD1, and so you're no longer at the mercy of a government that you might not trust or a currency you might not trust. And that's a beautiful thing for humanity, and that's why we're so incredibly proud of USD1 and what we're doing. And let me just say one other thing. You know, the US currency, like it or not, because there's so many international people in this room, it is really revered. It's what people want all around the world. You go to South America, guess what they want? Guess what they trade in? They trade in the US dollar. If you go to so many places in Asia, guess what they want? They want the US dollar. In fact, you have so many countries around the world that will do anything possible to make sure that people can't abandon their own country's currencies because they know that kind of the plight will be to the US dollar because it's safer, it's more stable, it's more accessible, it's more tradable. And so to take that format and digitize it and really bring it around the world and make it incredibly safe, I mean, the explosive growth that we're seeing at WLF is exactly that model. But again, it gives so many people financial freedom that they could have never comprehended before. And that's why this project has the legs. That's why everybody's talking about world liberty. That's why everybody's talking about USD1.
Collide, hold tight.